back. We're back. The podcast is back. After 2 years of not doing the podcast, we're back with the podcast.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. After 20 years away, we are back. It's been a long 20 years, Edward. I don't know what you've been up to in these last 20 years, but I had 3 kids. I have a long, bushy, gray Santa Claus beard. And I'm also, and you know this, I'm a famous tennis player now.
Really? You're a famous tennis player?
Yep, that's right.
Look at you, man.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's been a wild 20 years, sir, and we're back.
Well, these 20 years, I've just been huddled up in a bunker. I've just been watching old tennis matches, starting from, the 1900s when it first started. And by the time that I came out of that bunker 20 years later, I got to the 1950s. I watched about 40 years of tennis just in there. And, never in that time did I see you in there.
Well, yeah, that's why you missed my rise to fame, sir, because you were watching only up until the 1950s.
Well, that's the whole of history, man.
Yep.
Last year was 1949.
Crazy, dude.
All right, let's drop this bit. We're back.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We have to just get right into this. If you have not seen up to episode 608 of Better Call Saul,
yes.
Skip ahead. Okay.
All right, so please skip ahead from this moment on. Probably throw some kind of timestamp, but if it's not there, just skip to 10 minutes from now, and if you hear somebody say this person died, then probably skip a little bit further.
Correct. I'm gonna clap real loud at the end so we can, so I can know where to put the timestamp. All right. It shouldn't be that hard to find though, honestly. So yeah, dude, holy shit. At this past episode, Point and Shoot. First of all, great title.
Great title.
Because they've been doing... I didn't even notice it until, halfway through the season that every title had "and" in it.
Yeah.
It was Wine and Roses.
I noticed that, yeah.
Axe and Grind, Plan and Execution, all these different... and I don't pay attention to episode titles too much, so I didn't even really notice it.
Yeah.
But yeah, keeping with that theme, Point and Shoot was the title of this episode.
Yeah, and like the other episodes, there's kind of double meanings, because it's for me this one had triple meanings. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, so, dude, holy shit. I mean, it started with the whole teaser on the beach.
On the beach, yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, Howard's shoes are floating. We already know how they got rid of the body.
Mm.
It was that's so sad, man. With Howard. That's fucking awful.
That's the funny thing about that, though, because, it started with, the ocean. Great shot. I don't know how they did it. If they had, a crane, if they had a dolly, or if they had, a fucking drone. I don't know how they did that.
Right.
But it just starts, right hovering over the ocean. And it pulls back, and it's, so close to the sand. It's, right there on the sand. And I was like, what's going on? Because I didn't know that those were those guys' shoes. I was like, what's going on? And then I pieced it together, and I was like, oh, this is what happened.
Right.
And the interesting thing to me was, I had this thought. I was like, I guess Howard died twice. And the second way in which he died was the way in which everybody thought he would die.
Right.
And I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, which was suicide. Yeah, everyone thought he was going to commit suicide. Yeah. They pulled the suicide card once with Chuck. They can't. They couldn't really do it again.
Yeah, it can't be this show where all the guys died by a suicide.
People's predictions for this show just piss me off a lot of times. Because, people are just like, Kim's going to use the vacuum guy. It's like, no, she's not. They've done that 50 times already.
Yeah.
They're not going to...
What is that?
The vacuum guy, the disappearer guy.
Yeah, that's right, the disappear guy, yeah. Although that's still a little bit convincing to me, because like, what's gonna happen?
Dude, there's no way that can happen because literally everyone's predicted it for like years now. There's no way they can do that, and it's such like a plot convenience too. At this point, like they've done it. They've never done it in this show, but they've done in this universe. They've done it multiple times.
Yes.
They did it with Walt, Saul. Okay, technically they have done it in this show if you're counting the Gene timeline.
Yeah, Jesse.
Yeah. Walt, or Jesse multiple times because he missed his appointment that first time or whatever. But yeah, and then after the credits, I literally, dude, oh my god, I was fucking heated because like I was watching it, the teaser rolls, the credits come on, and then
I didn't watch the teaser.
and then commercials come on. No, the teaser as in like that little cold open.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, I thought you meant like the post episode, like, oh, the next time,
No. So the cold open, then the opening title came on.
And then commercials.
I was like, fuck, I have to know what happens in that fucking room.
Yeah.
And then, dude, oh my god, this episode was like a horror movie. This episode was like a David Fincher horror thriller type, like Seven. Like that's what it felt like. I was like,
it did, yeah.
That opening, dude, just with the candle and you see the blood stains and then you just hear their voices echoing, just like crying. I was like, oh my god, man. And then the way Lalo's just like, hey, focus, you two, sit down. It's like,
he is.
Oh.
He's like, come on. Like, this guy, man, is just a monster. Like, this guy's a monster. Like,
yeah.
He's just that, like it's. I mean, it's like beyond him. It's like it's so blasé at that point. It's like he killed a cockroach.
Yeah.
It
really was.
Yeah. It
really was. Like, hold up, I'm hearing some noise outside. I'm gonna turn a fan on in here, drown it out.
Well, guys, Jake's not part of the podcast, so we'll tell you guys about the time in which Jake robbed. Oh, he's back. I guess we'll do this at a different occasion.
Yeah, and dude, the little detail that I loved, well, that gave me a shiver, was when he's like talking to them and they're on the couch, and then he like starts walking, he starts pacing, and he just casually like kicks Howard's leg out of the way.
Yeah. I
was like, oh my god, like so casually, like he just kind of like sweeps it aside.
Yeah, that always bothers me. Like that, and I have a big point to make, but we'll get to it because I want to know if you. I want to know if you'll make it first. In which case, I'll be like, "Well, that was."
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Was it about this scene?
Yes.
Oh, the apartment scene, the opening scene.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
There's no guessing. We'll get to these things.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think of what else I have to say about the scene. I mean, I have a lot, really. Yeah, I mean, dude, like, Tony Dalton, the guy who plays Lalo, his acting in this scene was impeccable. And they really, like, brought out because this was Lalo's final episode, they brought out, like, the best in that character for this final episode. Everything you love about Lalo comes out. His humor, his charm, his freaking his Spanish, his terror, just his freaking badassery, like all of it.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
This was his episode through and through. I feel like this was like his and what's his name, Gus's episode.
Yeah, definitely. It was quite the showdown. And honestly, I did find myself a little disappointed that he and Mike didn't get to have their final confrontation. But
I do too, yeah.
But the thing is, if you think about it, I thought about everything from like a story perspective after I watched this. And I was like, it really wasn't... Their arcs didn't really... it would have been cool, but... wouldn't have really done anything for Mike or Lalo's arc. It was more about Lalo and Gus.
Yeah.
And like the whole Gus with the insulting the cartel and everything and telling this talking about what he really thinks about the Salamancas, which I almost feel like he got a little bit of inspiration from Nacho.
From Nacho,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you go back, I recently rewatched the one with Nacho's death, and what was I gonna say? Yeah, Gus after Nacho like spits venom at the Salamancas, and then he stabs Juan Bolsa in the leg.
Yeah.
Like Gus has like this kind of smile on his face, like he's a little bit like proud of Nacho, like he's like nice, you know.
Which, bro, I was thinking about that last week. I was thinking about not the Gus, but just like that one Bolsa stab. It has to go down as like top 10 ever, like very quick shanks out of man in film history.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he goes all the way back and then just goes like.
He shanked him. Yeah.
Like he shanks him as hard as he can, like in the hamstring. Like how Juan Bolsa is like walking in Breaking Bad after that is beyond me. And like after he's just like standing there and he's just like
he really like it's nothing. It's like, bro, you're probably actively bleeding out right now.
Yeah, like
probably like a fucking like ocean.
Yeah. But
filled with blood.
Back to the opening scene. Yeah, like, dude, I love all of the shit with, probably one of my favorite lines of the whole scene. I mean, there's a lot of them, but one of my favorite parts is when he goes, like, Jimmy's trying to, like, explain things to him, and Lalo's just like, shh, sit down. And then he goes, you two. He goes, you two in your mouths, Dios mío. It's like, I thought that was great, man. And it was like funny, but it was also really scary when he said that. Like it was also very scary when he said that because it was just like, oh shit, this guy is not listening. Like you can.
Yeah, so he doesn't care.
Yeah, it's like they're not reasoning with this guy.
Yeah.
And he's just like, now you listen. And then, yeah, dude, when he's... I'm like, where's this going? He's like, my car's downstairs. And I'm like, okay, is he going to send him to the laundry?
Yeah.
And then he goes, this is where you're going. And I love too, what he said. He goes, don't cut anyone off. Don't speed. Just drive nice, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. He said drive nice.
It's
about 20 minutes, yeah.
That's what's so scary about the guy, though. It's like, even after he shoots Howard in the head, like... Honestly, like, in the weeks leading up to this episode, I was like, oh, he's going to be no fucking, like, he's just going to be all business. But then I watched this episode, I was like, no, he's still being, like, nice and, like, charming.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, this guy just can't, he just doesn't drop the pretense.
Yeah.
Which,
never let it go.
Yeah, like, I find villains like that way scarier.
Yeah.
Like if you look at like Star Wars, right? Like a villain like Darth Vader is way scarier than like Darth Maul. And why is that? Because Darth Maul is just like, I'm angry, you know, but Darth Vader's like he's like got that pretense where he's like, it would be a shame if something were to happen, you know, like
yes, dude, this guy's threatening me.
Yeah. Like it's like there's always like thinly veiled like threats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, Lalo, dude, you know what I noticed about the scene? This is one thing I noticed.
Yeah.
He not once says, be back in an hour or I'm going to kill the other.
Right.
He never says it.
It's implied.
It's just, they just know.
Yeah, it's like you're leaving, I'm staying here, I'm giving you an hour to come back. You know, it's like there's consequences. You know?
Right. And that's what makes it so scary. He doesn't even have to say, like, be back in an hour or I'm going to shoot Kim. Like, no. He's just like, be back in an hour. Clock's ticking.
Yeah, exactly. The clock's ticking, man. And then Jimmy gets her out of there.
Yeah.
He gets her out of there.
Dude, I was watching it with my dad, and, like, the second Jimmy goes, she should go, my dad just goes, what? Because at first it was just like, what the fuck's he doing? And then you're like, oh, he's trying to get her out of there. Because he's
Yeah,
like,
'cause at
there's
least,
no way I'm leaving my wife here with this dude.
yeah, because at least it's like he assures her survival.
Yeah.
It's like if I sit here with this guy and he just kills me, it's like I'm dead. But at least like getting her out of here, I know for a fact that she's gonna be alright.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that Lalo, on his way out the door, he takes one last opportunity to insult Jimmy's car.
Yeah.
Like, he holds up the key, just goes like, Ford Taurus, taupe. And then he like kind of shakes his head and walks out.
Yeah.
It's like, your car's lame.
Yeah.
That was great, man.
And that's the end of that.
Yeah.
That's the end of that. But
Dude, and when Jimmy falls over in the chair and just has to stare at Howard's dead body.
he's trying to like wiggle away because the blood's like spreading.
Oh.
Yeah. That's tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, this episode was like horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, the ending of the last episode combined, and then this episode as one whole, horrific.
Yeah.
Horrific. Like, Nacho's death was crazy, jaw-dropping. It was not horrific. This was horrific.
Especially because Nacho's death was just not accompanied by, like, a follow-up episode that, like... You know what I'm saying? That just kind of intensified everything. Whereas, like, this... It's like Howard dies... We're left with this huge cliffhanger. The episode where Howard dies itself was... I mean, an incredible episode and just, like, so tense.
Yeah.
Thrilling. And then we follow that up by another intense, another thrilling episode where another major character bites the dust, you know.
Yeah.
So that was intense, man. And then seeing Kim just, like, driving there, and when the police, like, stop next to her, and I'm just like, is she gonna say something? Like, what's gonna happen, you know? Jeez.
And dude, the soundtrack, the whole Kim, when the whole soundtrack, the whole scene when Kim goes to Gus's house and she's driving down the highway, that soundtrack, dude, that boom, 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 boom. I was like, oh fuck, dude. And this episode, you probably knew this already, but this episode is directed by Vince Gilligan.
It is directed by Vince Gilligan, and it's written by Gordon Smith. Wrote this episode.
Who's written like a lot of the great episodes of both shows. Mm-hmm. Gordon Smith. Let me see. Gordon Smith writing credits. Let me see which episodes. He's written a few of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Let me see here. He has written... Let me see. Writer... Written by... Oh, no, he didn't write any of Breaking Bad. He wrote... he wrote some of the mini, like, special episodes of Breaking Bad, like, the little, like... Just little, like, webisode thingies.
Yeah.
That they did, like, promotionals. And of Better Call Saul, he's written... This one, he wrote Rock and Hard Place, so the one with, I think that's Nacho's death.
Yeah.
Oh, he wrote Bagman. He wrote Something Beautiful. Oh, he wrote Chicanery. So he's written a lot of the great episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Because, like, watching this episode, I thought it was going to be kind of like a back-to-back, I think, who was it? Was it Peter Gould who directed the other one?
The one with Howard's death?
Yeah.
No, I believe that was, oops, pause my recording by accident. It was, Thomas Schnauz.
Yeah.
He's directed a lot of the, he's another, like, big name on that show. He directed a few episodes of Breaking Bad. He directed Say My Name, that episode of Breaking Bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a big gun.
Yeah. And then he...
Yeah, but I thought it was going to be like him just back to back. Like, they would be like, you do those two episodes. You know? So I was surprised to see Vince Gilligan on this one.
Oh, you know what's interesting is he directed... the Bad Choice Road episode of Better Call Saul, which is the first episode that Lalo shows up at their apartment.
Really?
So I guess they were like, let's bring him back for when Lalo shows up the second time.
Yeah, because if he did a good job, because that was a fantastic scene. So I remember like, okay, that guy directed everything really well. Let's just trust him, or not? He like wrote everything really well.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kim shows up to Gus's house, dude. You know what I want? You know what I thought to myself? I was like, can you imagine season like 1 or 2 of Better Call Saul, and someone told you, but mind you, Gus wasn't even in the show at that point.
Yeah.
Imagine you're watching season 2 of Better Call Saul, and someone tells you Kim Wexler's going to share a scene with Gustavo Fring.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, what? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. But it happened, dude.
It happened, even if it was over the phone, but it happened.
It was over the phone, technically, but yeah, it happened. And with, not to mention with Victor and Mike again.
Yeah.
Which, even her sharing scenes with Mike is always kind of weird.
Yeah, but it was interesting, though, because, again, this show doesn't forget the humor. Because we're in that scene, and...
Yeah.
He's like, Mike, he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, Lalo, this and that and the other. He's like, he sent me to kill. And he's like, who? And she goes, that guy.
This is the decoy. And he's just kind of like...
Yeah. I had a laugh out loud moment. And
yeah.
I was like, oh, man. So clever. Like, so good, you know.
Yeah.
So, he described it. He was like, he's a little house cat. You know, he's like a little house cat. There's a guy with glasses about this high, you know.
Looks like a librarian.
And even through that description, she was like, that's the guy that I came here to kill. That guy right there. That made me laugh so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, the comic relief in this episode was great. Like, you know, because, again, it's such a dark... I mean, this show has gotten very dark. I mean, just as dark as Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the fucking, like, the consequences in this show. I mean, just to jump ahead for a second, like, when Jimmy and Kim are sitting there on the bed and Mike's telling them, you guys are just going to have to go about your day and we're going to clean up Howard's body and it's just a normal day for you guys. And then this is what you're going to have to do. I was like, dude, I just had this wave of, like, just darkness come over me. Like, I was like, I can't even fucking imagine this.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like one of the worst things that could happen to somebody.
And that's it. There's like the fun and games are over, you know. Like,
the next episode's called Fun and Games. Isn't that funny?
But that's the thing. We're on a stage for this show where that's it. You know, it's like it's over. You know, there was a point of this show which was about shenanigans, slow-paced shenanigans. Jimmy trying to, you know, get money out of the whole old people thing, and it's like, oh, you know, like all these things, and like, selling the phones and whatever. It's like all that silliness is like out the window.
Yeah, which that dude, it makes me look back on the rest of the show and just appreciate like some of the banality of the lawyer side of the show.
Yeah.
Because if it were like, it just wouldn't have the same impact if Jimmy and Kim have been witnessing, like, crazy shit this whole time. The fact that... And they always kept it, though, by having the crime side of the show, they always kept it, like, still, like, you had something there. Like, yeah, you're a fan of Breaking Bad, and we're going to have this lawyer stuff that's not really going to feel like Breaking Bad. It's going to be a lot of character building and very, like... You know, like, it's law stuff.
It's character drama, no action.
Yeah, it's sometimes, I mean, it would border on, like, romantic comedy sometimes with Jimmy and Kim and stuff, you know, and, like, this drama, you know, it's just pure drama with, like, sometimes Jimmy steps into the crime world, but then he just hops right back out. You know, but then they always had the crime stuff. They were like, but you're a Breaking Bad fan. We know that's why you're here. We can't just have a totally different show. So we have Mike, we have Nacho, we got Gus. And I look back and I really appreciate them doing that, dude, because it's like you said, dude, all the fact that Jimmy and Kim just have never, I mean, Jimmy did in the desert, but other than that, like, I mean, Kim never witnessed anything like that. So when you just have these two basically regular people just standing in this apartment and someone gets popped in front of them.
Yeah, and somebody that they know,
Yeah.
Somebody that they each have personal relationships with.
Yeah.
And somebody who had been there to confront them about, like, what is the deal that you guys have with me? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, you guys have relationships with me. I don't understand why either of you guys would do this. Like, somebody who showed up in order to kind of be like, you guys have ruined me, and we had personal relationships with knowing each other for probably decades of time. About a decade of time. So it's traumatizing,
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Kim points it out, and that's when it hit me, because she goes like, I've never held a gun in my life.
Yeah.
She goes like, you expect me to kill this guy to hurl a gun? And he's like, that's simple, it's a dummy proof. It's dummy proof. And I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. And she's saying that, and when she said that, I was like, oh man, like, this is just a woman,
Yeah. Is that what you're gonna say that you noticed about that scene?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you notice about that scene?
Okay, so I guess this is it. It's just like, I thought to myself, I put things together in my brain, and I was like, this is as close to a Michael Haneke funny game reference as I've seen in another thing.
Okay.
What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, the whole scene reminded me of Funny Games.
Yeah, that's what I came out of it with. I was like, this seems...
Was there a particular part?
Well, I'm going to describe it. Right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of break it down. And to me, it's even funny that you said that the next episode is called Fun End Games. I was like, holy shit, you said that. I didn't know that,
Yeah, and I think that's probably what they're getting at. It didn't hit me. I was like, why is the next episode called that? But I think what you're saying now that the fun and games are over, I think that's why they named that episode that.
I mean, think about this. Think about the scene. And everybody, spoilers for Funny Games. So if you're watching, if you're in here listening to this, because you're like, oh man, I'm caught up with Better Call Saul, fuck it. I'm gonna be here with the boys. I'm not gonna be one of the people who's gonna skip to the fucking 10, 20-minute mark. It's like, now, this is the part where I say spoilers for Funny Games.
Funny Games.
And probably skip like the next 3 minutes, and then we'll be back to fucking Better Call Saul. So Funny Games. The scene in which they kill the boy, right? So you have the dad who is tied up.
Oh, and the TV.
Yeah, and you have this TV, and you have the mom, and you have the boy. So they kill the boy. And then the boy is just like a pool of blood, right? They turn the TV all the way up, and then they leave. And then what happens is that Naomi Watts gets up, and she leaves. And then it's just basically the dad and the boy in this loud-ass room. And that's exactly what happened. Because you have Kim, who he sends her away.
Yeah.
And then he leaves. And then he just leaves Jimmy tied up on the floor with Howard, who's just dead and bleeding out, and this loud-ass TV song with that old movie. And I was like, this is just Funny Games. I was like, this is just a recreation of that scene in Funny Games that with just the parts kind of switched around a little.
Yeah, you know what, dude, you're right. Like, yeah, the whole TV, the TV being up way loud. I don't know, it just, because I think the reason I didn't so consciously think of it that way, I mean, you're absolutely right, dude, because that's a scene.
It has to be. Man.
Yeah, because it was so similar. Like with Howard's dead body on the ground, pooling blood, and then Jimmy's tied up and he's trying to get, it was...
The TV.
Oh,
They hold on that for a while. I was thinking, this is Funny Games. Because Funny Games is like, Funny Games exists in my mind. Because I had access, unfortunately, to that movie at such a young age that it's just like traumatized me. So I feel like whenever it like comes back in any way, shape, or form, like, there it is. So I had like PTSD where I was like, oh shit, here it is. It was not a fun experience.
Yeah, and I said it too about that first time that Lalo shows up at their apartment. That also reminded me of Funny Games the first time. But earlier in the Funny Games movie where it's just they're kind of sitting on the couch across from them, sort of like just messing with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. I don't know if and I get the same sort of like dread too. So like I had this feeling, just this feeling of like dread, dude. Like when Lalo showed up both times, and this episode too, the continuation of the second showing up to their apartment, where I was just like, just this feeling of fucking pure, just terror, just pure dread, just like, oh my god, dude, I just felt sick.
I have to prepare myself for this show. Like every time that I sit down to watch this, I'm like, okay,
yeah,
just like breathe, because like it's tough because it's like you don't want to subject yourself to that all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you asked me to every week, once a week, watch, Uncut Gems, I would say like no, you have to pay me. You would have to pay me. I can't do that.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to wear out one of my favorite films. That's why I wouldn't do it. But
yeah, no, it's tough, man. That the anxiety is like that's tough sometimes. This episode, it was just packed with that.
Yeah. I think that's where I love that shit, dude. Anxiety in cinema, like Hitchcock is one of like my favorites. I love anxiety in cinema. I love it, dude. Absolutely, I love anxiety, paranoia. I can't believe I haven't seen The Conversation. That seems like a great movie for that.
The Conversation's not an anxiety-inducing film.
Paranoia more,
but it's paranoid. It just makes you paranoid.
Yeah.
Like that movie's all about like, kind of like what happens to a person when they fall deep into paranoia.
Right.
And what happens to you is that you cease to exist. And by that I mean that it's like it is not a spoiler for the movie, like at all. But it just means that you like lose like your. You just lose like your agency. You're consumed by these like outside thoughts.
Yeah. I think that's what one of the like the Final Destination films is kind of about too. Like when the guy's just like really trying not to die and he's like just holds himself up. And I know that scene where Chuck McGill tears apart his apartment is inspired by the conversation. It's
literally a reference.
Yeah,
it's a literal like copy paste, and that's the thing because like these guys are such film nerds, like with the Conversation, now with Funny Games. We'll see what else they pull next episode with the Coen Brothers, with Nacho. Like they're just such like film like geeks.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that I would love to talk to. Like if I could go to a Q&A with Vince Gilligan and those guys, I would just love to ask him. It's like, why Funny Games? Like, what came to your mind? Like, is it like, would you own up that it's a reference? Like, like I would just love to hear these things.
I need to do some digging on that. I'm gonna see if I can find something. I know that the writers do sometimes respond to questions like on Twitter and stuff. So maybe because I really need to figure this out. I need to find out because I'll be really happy.
If you tweet at him and he replies to you.
Yeah. Which everyone out there, I'm also a television writer, just not nearly as big as these guys. So we'll see. So it's not like I can just call them up. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's like let me get Vince Gilligan on the phone.
Let me get him on the horn.
This episode he directed, yeah.
He's like, hello. Yeah. Well, actually, that was you'd be like, that was an idea from actually Thomas Schnauz. He had that idea to do the Funny Games reference and
let's get him on the phone. A 3-way call.
Yeah. It has to be a reference. And how about the "It wasn't me, it was Ignacio" line?
Oh yeah, I wrote that down. I was like, oh fuck, now they're referencing themselves. Like here it is, It wasn't me, it was Ignacio. Yeah.
And dude, we've been waiting 6 seasons to find out why he said that, what that line meant, and we finally got it.
Now let me ask you this, because like at the end, I guess like, I'm getting a little bit confused, because like does he think in Breaking Bad that Lalo is still out there?
Yeah, and so that's why Mike keeps
told him like it's done. He's like it's done, which I can only attribute like logically him thinking that he's still out there. The fact that he was told that he had been dead already.
Yeah,
And then now he's just like, I'm never gonna believe that guy is dead again.
Yeah. But Mike didn't say to him, didn't give him specifics. He didn't even say that he's dead. He just said he's not coming back.
Yeah, he's not coming back.
Which Mike's kind of a dick for that. I get why.
Just tell him. Just tell him the fucking straight up answer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we killed him and we buried him.
Yeah.
He's buried. He's dead and buried. It's like, that's what we did. He's never coming back. He's super dead. He's extra dead. He's 1,000% dead. He's gonna be under semen next week. It's like, he's not Jason from Friday the 13th. It's not gonna come back.
Right. Even though he acted like it the entire season. I mean, well, that's another thing we got to address. That now that when you watch Breaking Bad, the whole time you know that Lalo and Howard are buried under.
And it's interesting when that happened because I think you told me about that. You were like, I think this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, I predicted that.
Yeah.
I didn't predict Howard. I predicted that Lalo, because it's very ironic. It's very ironic. Like, it was really good irony. Like, okay.
I thought so too. Yeah.
This is what he's been looking for the whole time, and the one time he goes in, he's not coming out.
That's what I wrote. I wrote poetic justice. He killed this guy, now they're getting buried together.
Yeah. Yep. Dude, and the other scene too. So when
with Gus.
Yeah, and what's great about this episode is it's really easy to talk about because there's only like 5-6 scenes.
Yeah,
but they're really long.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean the pacing of this episode is wicked fast though. Despite the scenes being long scenes. What I was gonna say was when Gus. First of all, Gus has the most useless fucking security team ever.
Yeah, right.
At the laundry,
does,
but dude, I love
that. He's accomplished nothing.
No, when Lalo walks in, goes pop, 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 downs all of them, and then walks up to Gus, and he just does that little he cocks his head a little bit, and he smiles. I was like, oh god, man! And they even had a little horror violin there. It was like meow. I was like, holy fuck.
That was awesome. And then he just starts recording and talking in Spanish for Don Eladio.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love he was like a kid in a candy shop till the very end. Like when I loved when Gus was like, I haven't told that fat bastard Eladio what I think of him. And then
he starts spacing around just to make it like, oh, now I'm facing this way, I'm facing that way. Yeah.
But my favorite part was when he says that and Lalo goes, oh, ho, ho. Like, he's just like a kid, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Lalo is like a psychopathic child.
Yeah.
Like, he's like a really smart. And here's the thing, too. Because one thing you know about me is one of the subjects that I really like to study is psychology. And Lalo is a perfect example of the dark tetrad.
Yeah.
So you might have heard of the dark triad.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not mental illnesses, but so when you say the dark triad is psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. Yeah. And when you say psychopathy in this context, we're not talking about a psychopath. We're talking about traits of a psychopath, psychopathic traits. So we're not saying that this person is all three of these things. They have traits that tend to appear and grow and correlate to each other. So as symptoms of one go up, the other two go up.
Yeah.
And then they added a fourth one, sadism. And Lalo is a perfect example of the dark tetrad. So psychopathy, lack of empathy, that's obvious, right? The narcissism with the whole Salamancas are the best, Salamanca money, Salamanca blood,
Yeah.
Just, that's super narcissistic. Machiavellianism, which is basically just being really cunning, planning ahead, being able to postpone reward, and just playing that long game. That's Machiavellianism basically. And then sadism, he always talks about how he loves torturing people and stuff. He even said at the end, he even was like, "Oh, I wish we could, take our time to peel Gus's skin off, inch by inch." I was like, ugh, this fucker. He definitely deserved a more painful death.
Yes, he did. He did deserve a more painful death than what happened to him. Very quick. He was smiling, and then he stopped smiling.
Yeah, that was great too. The fucking smile.
Yeah, he was just like all happy. But I think he was like all happy, but like the half second in which he's like, "Oh shit, I'm dead," he was like not happy anymore.
Yeah.
It just kind of faded, and he was like, "Oh boy, that's it. That's the end of the fun." It's like he realized that. It's like, well, that's it. I'm not gonna have fun anymore.
Yeah. And then they had to do the smile because Lalo, literally the conception of that character was he's someone who kills with a smile. Like that's what they said to Tony Dalton. They were like, "We want you to play this character. He's someone that kills with a smile."
Yeah.
And so they've just completely. We see Lalo the first time, he's smiling. We see him the last time, he's smiling. Yeah. Bleeding out, he's smiling. But I have to know the funny games.
This is something that I laughed at, I guess unintentionally, about this episode. Great editing. When Lalo like jumps down, because he's like filming Gus and then pointing the gun at him with the other hand. So he like goes down a couple steps into like the, that basement area.
Yeah.
And then he jumps, and that was like a perfectly cut, like match cut to him jumping. And I also really liked just like the video, how during that it was like we're seeing the video from the point and shoot like handycam, and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. It's just Gus there. He shot him.
Yeah.
In the chest. But the funniest thing to me was that they're going down, and obviously Lalo is like behind him, and he kicks him.
Yeah.
He kicks Gus.
Yeah.
All the way from the top of the ladder, and Gus just like eats shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was funny and like super unnecessary.
Yeah,
like I was like,
hilarious.
I was watching that, I was like, oh, they're just walking, and then he just sticks his foot out and goes like, eh. I was like, fuck, you asshole.
Hilarious, man. I thought in my head I was like, well, these guys are playing 3D chess,
Yeah.
They're not playing chess; they're playing 3D chess because it's like how can I stay one step ahead of this guy? How can I outmaneuver him?
Yeah.
And with Lalo, it's like Lalo really thought it out. Like really, his plan was like foolproof.
Yeah. But
the fact of the matter is that Gus was like a month ahead of him. Gus had made it's like the Seventh Seal.
Yeah.
Where spoilers for the Seventh Seal. Fucking movie from the fucking 60s. If you haven't seen the Seventh Seal, go fuck yourself. Just listen to the podcast. It's like they're playing. The main guy is playing chess with death, and they play chess for a long period of time because they pause, and then they continue the same game they had paused, and he just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same thing with like Lalo and like Gus, where like they had met months before, and Gus made a move that Lalo looked at, and he was like, "Okay, just move that peon." It's like that's worthless. You're a dummy. You wasted a move, and it's like now they're playing chess again, and that same move that Lalo thought it was a dummy move, now was the checkmate move.
Exactly.
So I thought that was amazing. I was like such, I thought Lalo was such a worthy adversary.
For sure. For everybody. For everyone. Yeah. He was a foil to everyone of the main characters. Like particularly Gus and Jimmy. Like he's almost like an evil Saul Goodman. Like an evil, or a better way to put it is an evil Jimmy. Where like he can talk, Yeah,
he has the same abilities that he has. Yeah,
like it's like he has all of Gus's superpowers and all of Jimmy's superpowers.
Yeah.
And then his own. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like he's got Gus's intelligence and cunning and coldness and calculatedness. And then he's got Jimmy's fucking mouth, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, charm and eloquence.
Which is fascinating when you think about Breaking Bad and you think about, like, the guy that undid him, you know? Like, when you think about Walt and you're like, oh, it took that guy, you know, to outmaneuver this dude.
Yeah.
You know? Very fascinating.
Yeah. I see people all the time say, like, oh, if Lalo were in Breaking Bad, Walt would have met his match. It's like, no.
No.
Walt took them all out. Walt is a god. He's like Walt is the god of the universe of the Breaking Bad universe.
Walt was the ultimate villain. He was the ultimate villain.
Yeah.
Like he did everybody. He did Jesse, he did Gus, he did Mike, he did those like weird inbred dudes.
The neo-Nazis. Yeah. Tuco.
He orchestrated people dying in jail over like a 60-second period, you know?
Yeah.
Like he did everybody. And he did himself. He also did himself.
Yeah.
Like he did everybody, you know?
Yeah. Like you have the Vince Gilligan universe and Heisenberg is the god of the Vince Gilligan universe.
Absolutely.
Like he is their god. He took everybody out. Honestly, like, it just kind of makes Walt more of a legend, because you see how hard it was for Gus to take out Lalo, and then you realized, but he did it, and Walt took out Gus. Holy shit. Dude.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh my god. There was another thing I was going to say. Shit.
Dude.
Shit, man.
Well, just think about it. I'm going to make my point and shoot thing. So I was like, oh, it was clever that it was point and shoot.
Yeah.
So it references a gun, which is in the episode. It references a photo camera, which is a point and shoot camera, which is in the episode. And Lalo says that to Lalo says a version of that to Kim. It's like you just point and shoot. And with the camera, the video camera that Lalo used at the end, is also a point and shoot video camera.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this is triple fold. You know, people are always pointing and shooting here. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Oh, was that the name of the camcorder?
Yeah.
Oh, it said it says.
Not off of it. No, not off it. Of the type, you know, like the type of camera and the type of camcorder and the doing of the gun. They're all the same thing.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I didn't know if that's not called like a point and shoot camcorder.
No, but that's like what it is. The camera, the camera really is just called a point and shoot camera, but the camcorder, that's like kind of like a nickname for it.
Oh, okay.
You don't really have to do anything else. You just have to hold it, you know.
Gotcha. Here's what I was going to say. All of Better Call Saul, and I think Breaking Bad is similar too, but all of Better Call Saul's schemes, it's really, people, you know, I think you look at like the chess games in like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and you think they're like, you might think it's hard to write something like that, but all it is reverse psychology. That's all of the schemes in Better Call Saul, whether it's Jimmy, Gus, Lalo, they're all based on reverse psychology.
Yeah.
And reverse psychology, for everyone listening, like, if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's basically you say to, like, in the simplest form, I say to Edward, you know, don't fucking drink, don't take a sip of that beer. Don't take a sip of that beer.
But you want me to do that.
Right, and then when you do, I'm like, yes, he did it. And he did it because I told him not to, but I really wanted him to.
Yeah.
So you tell someone...
Use that with your kids. Use reverse psychology.
Yeah, exactly. You encourage someone to, you know, do the thing, to not do the thing that you actually want them to do. So that's what it, like, by sending Kim to Gus's house, it's literally a reverse psychology move. Because he wants Gus to think, you know, he wants Gus to think, oh, Lalo's sending people to kill me.
Yeah.
But wait a second. He actually wants... dude, it's so deep, I can't even put it into words. It's so many, like, it's so many moves deep, I can't even say it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's all it is. Literally, even at the most basic level, if you look back on previous seasons, all the cons and bar tricks are reverse psychology. You know, like, hey, don't you dare fucking buy that coin off of him, you know? And then he does it, and you're like, yes.
Right.
That's how that stuff's written, I think. Just, obviously.
This is the last point I want to make of the episode, and then, if you have more points to make, then we can talk about it. But the last thing I wanted to say is this sounds like, this is one of those things that sounds like kind of some tinfoil hat shit, like some, like, oh,
okay.
What if, But I noticed this, and I was like, oh, maybe this is something. But I'm too lazy. I was like, but I'm too lazy to actually, like, do anything about this. I noticed 2 pieces of dialogue that I found interesting because they're the same thing. And then I thought to myself, like, there might be a couple more instances of this that may give me a wider picture. But I was like, I'm not paid for this. I was like, I'm not one of those YouTubers who, like, like, what is it? There's, like, a YouTube channel called, like, Film Theory, or, like, no. You know what I'm talking about?
There's a lot of them.
But there's like, specifically.
Is it,
like an annoying guy. He has an annoying voice.
Oh, yeah, what is it? Just an observation.
It's not just an observation.
It's not? Okay.
No, it's like a guy. He had another one. It was like called like Game Theory. I think it is just called Film Theory.
Film Theory?
So, yeah.
It's not the Film Theorists, is it?
Is it? I'm looking it up just so I can know what it is.
Is it the guy with like the? Oh yeah, wait. He has an essay on No Country for Old Men, right? Analysis. Where is it?
It is the Film Theorists.
The Film Theorists? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this is it. So this is like one of those episodes. This is like one of those things that like that guy should do or some shit. Like I'm not gonna do this. I'm not even gonna, I'm not gonna try. But if you end up rewatching the episode, maybe you could be the guy who is ahead of this. This is actually a thing. But this is what I'm talking about. At the very beginning of the episode, Lalo is talking to them and he's telling them where to go, right?
Yeah.
And he says to them, "It's the house right at the end." He says, "It's the house right at the end of the T."
Yeah.
He says T. He just says a letter, right?
Right.
And I was like, ah. And then at the very end of the episode, Mike says to them, it's like, pretend like nothing's. He goes like, pretend like nothing's happening, and he goes, "It's just another day that ends in Y."
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that there's 2 instances of characters saying, "It's the thing that ends with T." It ends with a T. That's where the house is. And then and this is like the verbatim dialogue. And then Mike says, "It's just another day that ends with Y."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So at the very beginning of the episode, Lao said something with T, and then at the end of the episode, Mike said something that ends with Y. And I was like, maybe there's other instances of dialogue in the middle. And I was like, I'm not going to bother to say if it's true or not. But I'm telling you, and I'm telling this audience, because if it turns out to be like, oh my God, it was there all along, and then people are like talking about it online, it's like, I was ahead of this.
Yeah.
I was ahead of this, and I just was too lazy to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait for the next episode. Like, what the hell are they gonna do with their lives?
Yeah.
Jimmy and Kim, like, I mean, I just can't even imagine that. I mean, you fucking see Lalo in your nightmares forever. I mean, you see a guy with a mustache, you'd be like, fuck, you get triggered. You'd be like, oh my God, it's him.
Yeah.
Ah, God. I mean, talk about PTSD, dude.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like I mean, it's one of the worst things psychologically that I've seen happen to fictional characters, like, in a while.
Yeah.
Horrific, dude. But anyway, yeah, that's about. Could go on and on, but what an incredible episode!
I have a final observation,
and
it is that Mike referred to Howard as Howard, He was like, "Oh, Howard, that's what you guys were doing with Howard or whatever."
Yeah.
And then we see the scene in which he's like burying him, and he takes his shoes and his wallet and his ring, and then Mike looks really sad.
Yeah.
And I noted that, and I was like, oh, he probably knew this guy, because he worked, as like the guy who took the tickets or whatever,
And Howard was always like really chatty.
Yeah. So I was like, you probably knew him, you probably had interactions with him, now he's dead, and he's just he's just like somebody who was as far removed from that world as somebody can be,
Yeah.
And he's dead within it, so I was like, I thought it was interesting that moment with Mike when they just show him like, just looking and just being like fuck,
To hear Mike utter the words Howard Hamlin was really weird too.
That was weird for me. Yeah.
Just
there's a connection.
Yeah, just everything like connecting now, because the show, it's like Game of Thrones. Everything's just been so separate for so long.
Yeah.
It's crazy how they connected everything, but that's one of the most satisfying things about epics is when storylines cross, and that was one of the best parts about Game of Thrones, like when characters would meet one another, that never shared scenes, and there would be characters that would always have never shared a scene, like, I would say Nacho probably shared the least scenes with everybody.
I think so, yeah, sadly, because he was such a great actor, such a great character.
Yeah, but that's always for the best. Sometimes I like having certain characters in movies or shows that just never share a scene, and it's just sometimes it's better that way.
Yeah,
it's just like they just never, no reason for it.
Yeah,
and that's how the world is. We all have characters in our lives that will never share scenes with others.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really how it is, yeah. And you and I both know people in our lives. You and I have known each other for such a long time, and we know people in our lives who are important in our lives.
Yeah.
But they haven't shared scenes with either of us.
Exactly, yeah. This is one of the greatest, and maybe I can do the clap now that we're done with Saul.
Yeah.
All right, maybe I'll find that in the audio.
Technically, we are 57 minutes into this.
Gotcha. Yep. So that's one of the most. Yeah, we'll stop with this whole Bill Burr ranting about something you don't care about for an hour.
Yeah.
About football. Oh, I hate that man. But I don't hate that man. I hate that man. I don't. Yeah. I love Bill Burr, but but goddamn, I don't care about football.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's one of the most. I think what we're talking about here with people, basically for those who kind of skipped ahead, Edward and I were talking about how in life you have certain characters, you have people that you meet and that will never share scenes with others. Your life is just sort of this one big epic,
right.
And or maybe it should be,
It should
listener,
well,
like
unfortunately some people go earlier than others.
Yeah, I mean, or other people just don't have an epic for a life. I mean, hey, listener, what are you doing? Are you spending all your time masturbating in a dark room? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that's like one of the best parts about writing is. It's one of the things that drives me to write. Is just this idea of like just characters and characters crossing over and meeting one another, and I think that's what I think that's something I share with like Richard Linklater. He really loves that too. It seems like that seems to be the point of a lot of his films, including that first film that we watched of his.
Yeah.
Which seems like forever ago. Slacker. Yeah.
It was a long time ago. It was like I think our second episode.
Yeah. But yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
What else you been watching this week, sir?
Well, this week, man, I have seen so many movies. Like, this is probably the week that I've seen the most movies in my life. And by that I mean I haven't seen one. I haven't seen...
I was about to say good because I haven't seen any, but I guess we're in the same boat.
I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen one thing. I've listened to a lot of music, but I've listened to no movies. I've watched no movies, man. Not even one.
Well, yeah, no. I looked. I looked at my. I even looked at my letterbox. I was like, have I seen one? And then I looked. I've just been watching like TV lately. I've been, again, I've been binging Better Call Saul. I'm catching a family member up on it. And that's pretty much that's it. And I'm kind of ready for them. They're almost caught up.
Yeah,
they just got
to be up with the party.
Yeah, they just got past. Well, we can't say it, but
we're past the Better Call Saul time.
Exactly.
It keeps rearing its ugly head into the conversation.
Right. But we only have a couple episodes before they're caught up. So that'll be good. I'm kind of ready to, be able to just, watch other stuff again.
Yeah.
But I even looked at my letterbox. I was like, did I watch any movies this week? Mad God.
It was Mad God. That's the last thing we watched.
Hilarious.
What I have seen, what had been consuming my time was tennis, because we're in the middle of Wimbledon, of whom Novak Djokovic came out as champion. So Wimbledon is the third slam of the year, 3 out of 4, played on grass, and Novak Djokovic won it for the 7th time in his career, and for the 4th straight year. And now he's 1 away from Roger Federer, who has 8, and that's the most any male player has ever won in a singles Wimbledon. And it was great because I love Novak, but it was also sad because I'm a huge Nadal fan, and Nadal had an tear in his ab, and he had to pull out. He had to withdraw from the tournament. So it was very sad, but also it was very cool for Novak to win. So there's that. That's the tennis. That's the tennis of this episode, everybody. That's the tennis.
The tennis talk.
It's a little tennis update.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
Man, there's a bunch of music.
That guy's his injury last week. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, he had an injury when we had last talked on Thursday. He had an injury, and oh my God! Now everybody knows when we record the episode. So they record on Thursdays. But no, I had an injury on Thursday, and he pulled out. And Nick Kyrgios played Djokovic in the final, and he was never really going to be up too much. So that was that.
Yeah.
Not an epic, not a great final, but it was entertaining.
Huh.
You were listening to anything?
Yes. I was gonna say something else about. What? What have I been? Did I really not watch anything?
Yeah.
Other than Better Call Saul? It's been consuming my life. But we're in those. Gotta enjoy it while it lasts, though. Fuck, dude. But anyway.
Got a couple more weeks.
Yeah. No, I did a lot of reading this weekend as well. I did a lot of reading. I'm reading a lot of stuff about mythology and the occult right now. I got a couple books on the Egyptian god Set. Very interesting.
We've talked about it a couple times.
Yeah, very interesting archetype. I'm very interested in ancient Egypt and Egyptian mythology and spirituality and stuff. No, I am not a devil worshiper, if anyone thinks that.
What's a great movie to accompany this journey that you're on?
That is very true, yeah. No, yeah, that's a good segue, but we do have a few other things, I think, to talk about before we get into it, but it would be a good segue. But the occult fascinates me, for sure. And I don't see it as, like, evil or anything like that. The occult, I think it comes from a Greek word that means, I think it just means higher knowledge or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. So, if you look at anything, like any kind of spiritual practice, It's the occult, you know. What is Catholicism when you're walking up and, you know, eating that wafer and drinking the wine and tapping into the spirit? I mean, that's the occult, you know. And it might be blasphemy for some people to say that, for me to say that, but you know what? It's just kind of, we're working with a pretty fluid definition here. You know, but yeah, I love reading about that stuff. I love reading about gods and myths and mysticism and Jungian psychology, archetypes, you know, metaphysics, the spirit world, consciousness. Yeah, so I did a lot of reading on that. I got a book recently called Mind Star, and it's written by by Dr. Michael Aquino, the founder of the Temple of Set, which is a spiritual movement dedicated to the Set archetype, and the book's sort of an exploration of his proposed hypothesis of the human soul and parts of the human soul and stuff, and it's rooted in a lot of Egyptian mysticism. Really interesting stuff. But yeah, I have like a book budget now. I'm trying to build up my library here in my studio. But this right here, for anyone who can't see, I got the 48 Laws of Power, which I've mentioned before. Dude, this book is power, dude.
Yeah.
One of the best, probably my favorite nonfiction book. This and Mastery by the same author are fantastic books. Mastery is about mastering a craft, anything from boxing, painting, tennis, you know, poetry, construction, any skill. Mastery is a book on mastering a skill. Would highly recommend it to anybody who's passionate about anything, honestly. Unless you're just some average, you know, working Joe, which is fine, and you don't have anything that you're interested in, I would recommend this book, Mastery by Robert Greene, to anyone. It runs you through, and it has anecdotes from famous tennis players, dancers, boxers, artists. You know, John Coltrane, it talks about all kinds of musicians. Incredible book. And then the 48 Laws of Power is fantastic too. You'll learn a lot about human nature and how to navigate the social and corporate landscape, I would say, very effectively. And they are dangerous. You need to use them wisely. You know, a total asshole could use these and cause some real harm. So you have to, but it's knowledge. I don't subscribe to the whole idea that these are evil. They are tangible descriptions. They are descriptions that we apply to tangible realities that exist, whether you like it or not. That's the way I see it. And it's better to know them, even if you're not going to use one of them, to know if you're being played, you know?
Right.
But yeah.
For better or worse, I'm going to make a mention of a Bill Burr joke in which he talks about Kanye. And he's like, my wife was watching some Kanye thing. And I walked into I'm probably butchering this, so I apologize. He's like, I walked into the house, and I'm just listening to this. He's like, I don't know what's on the TV, I'm just listening to this. And the thought that comes to my mind is, whoever this is the most dangerous human being alive. And he walks into the room, and he goes like, oh, it's just Kanye. I had relief because I know that because he's a black man in America, he is handicapped.
Oh.
And there is no way that he can maximize his potential and be as dangerous as he can be. He's like, but if you put that guy in a white man's body, you know, it's like that guy is capable of anything. Like that guy's dangerous. That guy's a threat.
That's terrible.
Which I feel like the versions of Kanye West in white dudes' bodies are like Elon Musk or like Trump. You know,
Trump for sure. I don't know about Elon Musk, but he's a little loopy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elon's just he's got a big imagination. You know, he loves. Elon Musk. He loves like science fiction. I think he said when he was a kid he would read science fiction for like 10 hours a day. You know, it's like.
Yeah.
Which I find people like him and Kanye very interesting because
Yeah.
they and I can kind of relate to them a little bit on this in this way that they find inspiration for not only find inspiration for art within like science and just kind of technical stuff, but vice versa too. You know. I'm trying to think of like a good way to explain it. Cause like Elon Musk, right? He gets like a lot of his ideas. I feel like kind of come from science fiction.
Yeah.
You know, which is like really interesting.
Yeah.
And then Kanye's like all into like, science and mysticism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I just feel like it's interesting how like the art, imaginative side, and then the kind of like technical, real world tangible side sort of like feeds each other with both of those guys. Kind of interesting.
Yeah. I have like a thing. I was thinking about this the other day because I have an inclination towards Elon Musk the same way that Childish Gambino does. Childish Gambino in an interview he talked about Elon Musk and he said he was like, I still haven't figured out if that guy is a hero or a horrible villain. And that's the same experience that I have with that guy. Where it's like every day I hear something new. Every day, like he's like beefing with Trump right now.
Elon Musk?
Like yeah, they're like beefing because like Trump like said that Elon Musk is like he said that Elon Musk is like an idiot, and he said that Elon Musk voted for him, and Elon Musk was like I didn't. This is like a Twitter thing. Elon Musk was like I didn't vote for him, and then because Trump is on Truth Social because he like owns that.
Yeah.
So he's just on there. And he like posted like this like post of a picture of Elon Musk and him, and he was just saying that Elon Musk was like basically like simping for him, and Trump said that if he had asked Elon Musk, and I'm saying this verbatim, this is like what he wrote. He said if I had asked him to get on his knees and beg, he would have done it. And I was like, holy shit! And then Elon Musk reacted to it by just saying like Lamau, but I'm like, dude, you guys are like going at it right now.
Damn. Wow, dude.
That's happening, bro.
I didn't even hear about this. That's crazy.
Yeah. And today's Trump's ex-wife died. So
Ivanka?
No, yeah, Ivana.
Or Ivana, yeah. Ivanka's his daughter.
Yeah.
Who might also be his wife eventually. Fucking creep.
But yeah.
Well, that's not sad at all. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. That's fucked up. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, we don't know what she is. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It just doesn't hit me or anything.
No, absolutely. I don't think it'd shoot it to anybody. Nobody probably knows who that woman is, other than her close personal friends and people. Whatever.
Yeah. But it's a human life. So hey, rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, I don't know. My thing with Elon Musk, I've always seen him as kind of and maybe I'm a fool for this, but I've always seen him as like a benevolent figure. I don't know. I've never looked at him as like this evil billionaire who's like money grubbing. Like he does not strike. That doesn't seem to be his goal.
Yeah.
Like I look at a guy like Jeff Bezos, and I'm like, this guy's like very corporate. Yeah. And money centric, but I've never thought of Elon that way. I feel like Elon's trying to like push new horizons.
Yeah, no, I think where I've come down with Elon Musk is that I think he's not a good person. You
don't?
Like I like just from my observations. Like I follow him on Twitter just because I'm always interested. Like to me, I'm always fascinated with what that guy's going on and what he's about.
Yeah,
but. I just like from my observations of that man, just listening to him, seeing him doing interviews and stuff, I don't think he's a good person.
Really? Well, I mean, what makes you
that's
think
just like my overall gist, and it's not anything necessarily conclusive. It's more so things that I don't necessarily want to go into, but it's also just like I don't know, just like my general feeling about him.
Cut of his jib.
Yeah, the cut of his jib. It's literally just the cut of his jib. Like, if it comes down to it, it's just the cut of his jib.
It's just a suspicion you have.
Yeah, the homophobic jokes that he's made, like, a lot of that. I don't think he's a guy with a lot of empathy for people.
Yeah,
that's
I don't know.
That's where I come out. That's where I come down to it.
Yeah, I mean, he could be like this, just kind of like a computer,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't really see him that way. That's interesting. But again, for me, it's literally a suspicion as well.
Yeah.
Like, I see him at, I don't know. I'm not the most, I'm not the most cynical person in the world, but I'm also not the most, optimistic person in the world especially like about other people or like public figures. But yeah, I don't know. Elon Musk, I've never got, like, I've always just seen him as sort of like, a very like quirky dude, but as someone who's just trying to like create this, new kind of future for humanity. We'll see. I don't know. Time will tell.
We'll see, man. We'll see.
He's got a lot. He's got a lot left.
But the more the time passes, the more that I lean towards, like, the more that I grow a negative opinion of him, and the more that I kind of think about that whole thing of, like, absolute power corrupts absolute.
Yeah.
And he's the richest man in the world.
It's true.
So there's something to that.
He could literally assassinate both of us right now just
right
for
now.
talking about him.
Nobody would know. He would delete this, like, audio recording from our computers. Like, nobody would know.
Yeah.
Like, nobody would know.
He could erase our existence probably. Like, he could erase every trace of us, everyone who's ever known us. He could just, like, make them think. He could like lock them away in an asylum, and they think they're crazy. They're like, I saw a man named Jake Wicklaz, and he's like, they're like, no, you didn't. Is Jake in the room with us right now? Like,
dude, it would literally be like, spoilers. Skip to a minute from here. It would literally be like The Departed.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio in The Departed, where he starts having that crisis because he's like, there's no trace of me anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who I am, And then he figures it out. He's like, there's one guy who knows who I am. He gets that guy. He's like, it's me. We're in the academy together.
Yeah.
Which to me always was like a very like, I don't know. That always struck me with that movie.
Yeah.
It's that idea and that character, and like his pain.
Oh, for sure. And then like that part where Mark Wahlberg's like, why don't we just erase your file, And then you'll just be another one of Costello's foot soldiers. It's like, oh fuck, he could totally do that. Yeah, Elon. He's one of my heroes for sure. But as a person, not enough data. None of us have enough. None of us have enough information. You never have enough information until you actually know somebody, and even then, you might not have enough information.
Yeah, but at least you have more information to actually make a character judgment.
Right, exactly. Like, I think you're a total fucking asshole, and that's that's after spending, 5 years, 6 years living with you, and, I just think you're a total douche. So, I mean, that's where that...
well, sir, likewise.
Now, you were talking about music. There's an artist that I want more attention on, man. You won't know him. He's literally a guy on YouTube who gets like 1,000 views per video, but like I found him just randomly one time. He's a musical artist called KS Cube.
Okay.
And he's like rap artist, singer. He sounds a lot like Don Toliver, but even better. Like, he has like that Don Toliver type voice, but with more nuance to it. Like, I feel like he has a way better range than Don Toliver does. Like, where he like can actually like sing and hit notes, and he has songs in English and stuff, and then he also has like South African language music as well.
I found him. How did you find this guy?
I literally came across, he had a video, I think it was through Don Toliver that I found him, because I was searching like Don Toliver songs on YouTube, and I was going down kind of a rabbit hole, and then he has a YouTube video called, I think it's called, like, Did I Just Sound Just Like Don Toliver? And it's like he does a cover of a Don Toliver song, and he sounds just like him, but his cover's better than the actual song.
Really?
He's amazing, dude. And I comment on his videos all the time. I'm like, dude, keep making music. You're fucking awesome. Someone needs to sign you. Like,
Yeah.
like, dude, this guy.
Oh, I see it. Did I just sound just like Don Toliver? Hashtag wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the song he covers is Wasted.
Yes.
The what wasted.
Well, everybody, go listen to this, man. KS Cube. Go blow him up. And if you're listening to this, say that we sent you. Say that the Film Tangents boys, they sent you.
That's right, KS Cube. I'm gonna send you right now links to probably my favorite song by him that I just started listening to.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, his music's played a little bit. His music's amazing. Yeah. I want him to get discovered. I really hope, because I want him to keep making music.
Yeah, very good, very nice.
So yeah, been listening to a little bit of him. He doesn't have a lot of music out there. He has 2 albums on Apple Music. One of which is an English language album, and then the other is I think the language is called Zulu.
Yeah.
It's a South African language. Yeah, I hope he blows up. I really do.
Yeah. All right, man. I hope so too. And if he does, pay us money because we blew you up because of our influence.
Yeah, right. That's why I wish I had more influence, because that I could help him out. But hey,
really help him, man. Like, you can really turn somebody's life around. Like, Fantana's actually done that for like some artists, you know.
Yeah.
Where it's like he reviews them and he gives them a positive review. And they were like a band that if before the review you looked them up, they had like 5,000 people on YouTube and like, you know, 10K views the video, and then like, you know, then they're like a thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a handful of artists that discovered because of that guy. Like Brockhampton I discovered because of him, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was big. He was big for them. They shout him out like in a handful of songs. They say his name. You know, they have like an interview with him where like he interviewed all of them. Like because I think they recognized that. I think they recognized like, oh, this guy like helped us out. You know, because like he was all over their songs. Like before, like when they were just releasing singles before they even put out an album, he was like, oh, this song's great. And their first album, he gave like a 9 out of 10 to. So, dude, he like blew their shit up. You know?
Wow.
He sent a lot of people that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I've really listened to much else like new. You're always way better with the music stuff than I am. I'm just more of like
I'm on that journey, that alphabetical journey.
I'm such like a dessert. You know what I am? I'm a dessert listener.
Yeah.
Like I just go straight for the dessert. Like you, dude,
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's a perfect analogy. Like you, as a music listener, you eat the appetizer, the main course, the freaking beans, the rice, the vegetables, and then the dessert. And I just go straight to the dessert, dude. That's not to say that I mean, dude, there's people sometimes who they're listening to pop music and like they're listening to like just different like Flo Rida songs and shit on repeat, and I'm just like, how sad is that you're just listening?
Well, that's the thing, dude,
that your taste is just the hot 100.
Yeah. I was over listening to a conversation today that was basically that. These people talking about this like generic like, and you know, if you like these artists, if you like Flo Rida, we apologize. You know, all the power to you. Live your life, be happy. But it was like one of those conversations, and I was like, I could not imagine myself just like days on end, just like listening to this, like just listening to Drake, you know, just like listening to, you know, just like this fucking middle of the road bullshit, you know. It's like I could not do it. I could not be listening to what's the Flo Rida song?
Whistle. Isn't that
one that's more popular than that one?
He's got a lot of crap. I mean, it's all crap. It's all crap.
But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I could not be listening to a Florida song, and then it's followed by, like, In My Feelings by Drake. You know, then it's, like, followed by, like, some, like...
Haters Gonna Hate. Shake It Off by Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Like I could not... I could not be that person. Like,
Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just that. Just, like, back to back to back. Like, Hot 100 songs. Like, Jesus.
I don't understand it, man. I don't know how anyone could do it. Granted, I don't think most people are like that, but I've met some people who just play that.
Bro, I think most people are like that.
You think so? I don't know.
I think most people are like that. I think most people are absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. If you put 10 people in a room, at least 5 of them are gonna be like, yeah, I just kind of understand.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Like, what's on the Hot
like,
100? Yeah.
And you ask them, like, what concerts have you gone to? And they go like, oh man, my favorite concert ever was the Imagine Dragons concert. And then you have to think to yourself, how long before I kill myself? If I allow this person to keep talking to me about their music choices.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, and that's what I want to get across, is that's not me. When I say I'm a dessert listener, what I mean... by the way, I dated someone like... I dated someone like that, who we'd fucking be riding in the car. No names given, but we're riding in the car. She's fucking playing... It's like 11 o'clock at night, you know, and she's playing Flo Rida, and I'm just like, what the fuck is the matter? What mood is this for? You know, god damn it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's just
dude, I don't even care if she hears this. Get fucking better taste. Holy fuck. Yeah, but when I say I'm a dessert listener, like, I generally won't listen to an album top to bottom. I'll kind of, like, skim songs. I'll speed read it, you know. I'll speed read the album. The way some people speed read books. That's how I read so many books, is I speed read them. Because, like, for me, like, especially with nonfiction books, you just need to grab the fucking point and move on. You don't need all that shit. You're not going to retain all of that anyway. But anyway, I speed read albums, basically the same way I speed listen to albums. And I just I cherry pick what songs I want, put them on a playlist, and I have giant ass, you know, 80-hour playlists for rock and roll, for metal, for rap. Very much a dessert listener. That's what I would categorize as a dessert listener. But enough with my stupid analogies. Another song that I picked up this week that someone was playing that I really liked was "Straight Ballin'" by Tupac, which I'm a big Tupac fan, but somehow this song eluded me.
Man, bro, I am a big Tupac fan. And that song also eluded me. And I was introduced to that song in the past week.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, dude, that's too weird.
No, dude, I'm not even fucking with you. That, like, Sunday I was introduced to that song.
This was, like, yesterday, maybe, for me?
Yeah.
Dude, some things are just too weird.
Yeah.
That's the fucking Matrix, dude.
Yeah, dude, like, I'm telling you, I'm not fucking with you. That's absolutely what happened.
Holy fuck. Well, that's weird.
Yeah.
What albums did you listen to this week, sir?
So, I'm going to recap this, because we lost the audio. I'm just going to spit fire this. Everybody, listen to Elliott Smith. Fantastic guy. Listen to the Either Or album, or listen to the self-titled album. But he's a very, very sad music. So if you are the type to get really sad, then don't listen to it. I listened to EPMD, Strictly Business, 80s boom bap hip hop, quite good, quite repetitive, not good for a long drive. I listened to Paid in Full, Eric B. and Rakim, also 80s, 90s boom bap, classic hip hop, not very good. Not very good. Even more repetitive than Strictly Business. Less listenability. Only like a couple of good songs.
Oh damn! We missed a piece of audio that you made me laugh so fucking hard. Where you were talking about how it has things in rap that you don't like in old rap.
Yeah.
Like, I went over to the store. Ha
yeah, that's right. I did say something like that. I can't remember what it was.
It's got a little twist sound, like.
yeah. And I think I did like a little like freestyle too.
Yeah, you did.
Like a couple bars.
Oh, dude, that made me laugh so hard.
But yeah. Rakims and Eric B's, even though I know they're like, people who love them count them as like far the greatest. Not a good record. To me, not a good record. I thought Sugar Business was better. A lot of cliche in that shit. Listen to Erykah Badu. Listen to Mama's Gonna. Listen to Baduism. Amazing records. Masterpieces. So if you want to listen to some soul music, if you want to listen to some R&B music, listen to that shit. Some of the best soul and R&B I've ever listened to in my life. Only comparable to like D'Angelo, or like Frank. But Frank's like off the side. He's not even part of like, he's like too new school. But like old R&B soul, and I love R&B and soul, is one of my favorite genres. Erykah Badu, like one of the best ever. Everything's album Get to Heaven. Alternative, experimental, rock pop. Amazing album. Listen to that. Another masterpiece. Since the podcast, I listened to Father John Misty's I Love You, Honey Bear. And that is also an amazing album. It's alternative rock, very like operatic in some senses. But this is like a very just down to earth, a lot of melancholic songs, just an exploration of like his marriage. So if you want to listen to that, I recommend that. For me, that's like an 8 out of 10 album. It was great listen. Highlights for this album, if you want to take a listen to it, listen to the very first song called I Love You, Honey Bear. Probably the best song on the album. Amazing song. So listen to that one, or listen to Holy Shit, which is the 10th song. And then I've been embarking on Fiona Apple. I've been listening to her discography. And I've listened to Tidal, which is great. It's a great alternative pop album, the 90s. Great record. And then I listened to When the Pawn Hits the Conflicts, He Thinks Like a King. And that album, all-time favorite for me now.
Okay.
Amazing record. Like that's another masterpiece. Like, I'm so happy, man, that I've been missed. I'm so happy that it's like Erykah Badu, Everything, Father John Misty, and Fiona Apple. I'm so happy that these like artists have collided, because every single one of those artists has given me like a masterpiece to listen to. So I listened to that incredible record. Listen to Paper Bag. Or listen to Fast as You Can from that record. And I also listened to Extraordinary Machine, her 2005 album. This album came out, I think, like 5 to 6 years after When the Pawn. And another great album. Not as good as When the Pawn, but 8 out of 10. Fantastic album. Listen to Oh Well, or listen to Not About Love. Great songs. And that's all I got. And as you and I talked about last week, I listened to Eminem, his first 3 records, Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, and an Eminem Show. And I ranked them as the Marshall Mathers LP being 1, Slim Shady LP being 2, and the Eminem Show being 3, and I thought all of them were great. Mm-hmm. I thought Marshall Mathers was like 9 to a 10, and that the Slim Shady LP was like an 8 to a 9, and that the Eminem Show was like a 6 to a 7.
Yeah.
And something that I wanted to know, and I'll just go about this quickly too, was that I noticed like a very clear progression of Eminem.
Okay.
Going from in the Slim Shady LP just being like, I'm going to lean all the way heavy into shock.
Yeah.
Shock rap and shock humor, and completely embody this character.
Yeah.
Just go hams to the wall. And I saw him then in the Marshall Mathers LP be kind of in conflict with that.
Yeah.
And that's like an observation that I wanted to make, because, and I found that interesting, because the Marshall Mathers LP is just kind of him trying to put the brakes on that shit and be like, okay, like, I made that album, and now I'm the biggest shit in the world, and the government wants to cancel me, and like, nobody wants you to listen to my music, and people are saying that crimes are being committed and things are happening because of me, you know.
Right.
So the Marshall Mathers LP is literally him kind of coming to terms with his own level of influence,
Yeah.
and with the danger of his own fucking music, you know. And that was fascinating.
That's what Stan's about, pretty much.
Exactly. You know, like that's what birthed Stan as a song. It was basically just him being like saying like, hey, all this shit that I'm saying, I've never committed a crime. You know, I'm just a dude who has a daughter and a shitty relationship with my ex-wife. You know, it's like I'm not anything. I'm not any of these things. You know.
Yeah.
And there's multiple songs in the album, like multiple songs in that album where it's just kind of him going like, again, you know, I'm not a guy who's doing this.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a guy who's doing this. Like the song that he has with Dre. There's a song with Dre in this album, and I forget which one it is. But the song with Dre finds him, like I think like it's like almost the one of the last songs. Just finds him saying again in his verse, just like I'm not that guy. Like I'm not, you know, like I'm not doing any of this shit. Please, you know?
Yeah. It's basically him
That's
having to say like this is a character.
Exactly.
Because the way I see it, you know, if you learn, like, if you realize how fucking angry someone would be to be in Eminem's position, like how the way that guy grew up and all the shit that he dealt with constantly, you know, that guy had a rough upbringing. You know, that guy had it rough, you know, and as a lot of rappers do. And Eminem, I don't know, there's just stuff in his come-up story that really just stings. You know, the stuff with his mom and the stuff with, like, you know, just him getting his ass kicked and constantly being the new kid in schools and getting fired from places. I mean, you know...
That song Brain Damage in the Slim Shady LP is literally that. You know?
Yeah.
And it's sad, man. Like, I re-listened to the Slim Shady LP the day before yesterday, and sad song, you know, because it's just him just basically being like, people were bullying me, and the teachers didn't care, and the principal didn't care, and my mom didn't care, and my mom was abusing me, you know, and the chorus is just him saying like, brain damage ever since the day I was born, you know.
Yeah.
He said, dude, I listened to that song like 4 times because I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I know the chorus now. It says, brain damage ever since the day I was born. Drugs is what they used to think I was on. You know, brain damage. It's like, shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, rough upbringing. And I saw like a documentary about him where he talks about that. Like, how they bullied him, how he lost like hearing in an ear. How he, like, you know, like, dude, it's rough, man. Rough shit.
Yeah, and you look at all that and you're like, well, of course this guy created this character to, like, channel his anger. You're lucky that's all he did, you know?
Yeah. But that's the thing, man. Like, he really made, like, and I do think the Eminem Show is a good album, but it's like this, like, trilogy of, like, Slim Shady, the character, Marshall Mathers, the man, and then Eminem, the other character, you know?
Right.
And so that's fascinating, just being like, oh, this is just a guy with, like, 3 personalities, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. Well, my personal favorites off of both albums, on the Slim Shady LP, If I Had is probably my favorite song on that album. That song, If I Had, listen to that if you're ever down. It's not an uplifting song, but it's a very great, like, you know, that's the life is like a big optical in front of your optical, or no, a big obstacle in front of your optical to slow you down. Like, you know, that's just a good song to, like, channel your anger, just to, you know.
And it's just so full of, like, quotables. Like, what is funny? Money is what makes a man act funny. You know, it's like so, like, it's such a quotable and, like, smart song.
Money will make them same friends come back around swearing that they was always down.
Exactly, dude.
What are friends?
It's such a great song.
Friends are people that you think are your enemy, or that you think are your friends, but they're really your enemies with secret identities that hide their true colors.
Yeah, no, it's like this weird paranoid song, but it's so good.
Tired of backstabbing ass snakes with friendly grins.
Yeah.
The other favorite off that album is My Fault.
My Fault. Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, I know you like that one.
Yeah. And then the one before that too, leading up into it, I never meant to bring you to my world. So good.
Like such a good album. Like Rock Bottom, such a great song. That's
Yeah.
Rock Bottom. You know?
That's Rock
Like,
Bottom.
Doesn't give a fuck. Great song. As the World Turns, amazing song.
Yeah.
You know, like this album is just full of them. Just full of them.
Both.
Shady's a great song. Like I just love how I'm Shady goes like, I'm shady, like unabashedly. It's like that weird delivery. I really love that song, man.
Yeah.
That beats Evil with Royce 5'9", like that whole little like Western theme.
Yeah.
And Still Don't Give a Fuck is such a great closer for that album, even though it might have propelled the consequences that this album had. You know, like the negative impact that it had on people.
Which one?
And being like I just don't give a fuck. Like I don't, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's why it's like so fascinating that the Marshall Mathers LP is like a basically taking off the clown makeup and being like, I'm a man,
right?
And all the things I said I did, I don't do, and I have issues, and
right.
That's the truth, you know. And if you fans of mine are crazy people, I don't endorse it. And if you're actually having issues, then you need medication. You know, like he says all of those things.
Right.
You know, in the second fucking track, in fucking Stand, like immediately, he's like, let's address this. You know.
And we definitely can't forget. When I was just a little baby boy, my mom used to tell me these crazy things. Which, by the way, I mentioned this last week. That song is creepy.
Yeah.
That song's creepy as hell. Both of these albums, there's songs on these albums that are really eerie. Like, which one is it? I think it's Just Don't Give a Fuck.
Yeah.
Wait, is it this one?
First three albums were great. The Eminem Show has a bunch of fucking hits, you know, like Cleaning Out My Closet, it's the Eminem Show, In America, Soldier, Without Me, Superman, When the Music Stops, Till I Collapse, a bunch of fucking hits. Just listen to that, man. It's 3 albums are great.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted us to just talk about that, like explore a little bit, like the I guess like just like the story and like the consciousness of him being like, oh man, I'm fucking up, you know, and the message is not coming across.
Yeah.
But
it's a good observation.
But that's it, man. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. And I want to do something right before we move into the film. I want to do something. And it is because they announced the Emmys.
Oh yeah.
You know where I'm going. You know where I'm going with this.
Better Call Saul finally it's getting its dues.
No. I'm gonna tell you the things that it's nominated for, and then you just react. And I think Better Call Saul is only being nominated for the first half of season 6, and not for the second half. So take that into account.
Right.
It's being nominated for Best Drama Series. Bob Odenkirk's being nominated for Best Leading Actor. Ray Seahorn is nominated for Best Supporting Actress. So she's not in the leading actress category. And Better Call Saul does not have any supporting actor nominations.
Yeah, that is crazy that Nacho,
so
Michael Mando didn't get a nomination.
Michael Mando's not nominated, Lalo's not nominated, and Howard's not nominated.
Crazy.
So I wanted to bring that up because dude.
I mean, what, dude? Better Call Saul, like in the Emmys, is like, it's like if you had Michael Jordan go out onto the basketball court, and then you brought out like 10 middle schoolers like trying to dribble a ball. It's just like, it's not even fair. So I almost feel like they just didn't want it to sweep.
And this is the thing. I haven't seen Severance. I haven't seen Succession. But Succession actors were nominated for 3 supporting actors. And Severance actors were nominated for 3 supporting actors. So that's like one show taking up 6 spaces, you know. So, like, I don't know, man. Like I saw that shit. And I know these awards don't mean shit. Like, they don't mean shit. You know,
Yeah.
it's like whatever. You know, they don't mean shit. Like, these awards are gonna come up, and like Euphoria and Ozark are gonna win everything. And if you like those shows, again, all the power to you. But what I've seen of Ozark, shit show. I don't like it.
Garbage.
And what I've seen of Euphoria, shit show. You know, like really shitty show. You know, but these are the shows that are probably gonna win because they're trendy and everybody knows about them. You know, so whatever, man. You know, fuck award shows.
Oh man, I'm gonna be so mad. Saul better fucking sweep it, dude. I have faith.
I don't know, man.
I have faith. I have faith.
I think they're gonna do it wrong. You know, let's wait for the fucking Golden Globes and see what happens then.
We'll see.
But if you want to move on from this and talk about the film of the week, we can.
Yeah, so we watched this week The Call of Cthulhu.
Yes, sir.
Based on the H.P. Lovecraft short story of the same title, or novella, rather. This movie was made in 2005, but it was made to look like a 1920s silent horror film, and it's got a lot of German expressionist elements in it. Which my favorite review on Letterboxd of this film was the Cabinet of Dr. Cthulhu.
Yes, that's like the top review, and like, bro, I was watching this movie, and my first note, like the first thought that I had, the first thing that I wrote down was like, I wrote, taking so much inspiration from the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
See, I don't even have any memory of that film. The last time I watched that was in high school in my film class.
I saw that twice.
Really?
I saw that movie twice, yeah.
I don't remember.
It's a good movie. It's actually a good movie, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Yeah. I've heard it is. I still want to see Nosferatu. I haven't seen Nosferatu.
Nosferatu's great, yeah.
It's scary. I've seen clips from it, and I actually took that short film that I wrote that you and I might or might not be working on. Might not be making. Being coy here. I took a lot of inspiration from Nosferatu for that script. But anyway, yeah. I was very inspired just by the fact that this film exists, because that's something that that's been a goal of mine for a little while, more of a long-term goal, like a someday goal. I love old 1950s atomic giant monster flicks. I mentioned this last week, and one of my goals, again, like I said last week, they range from fantastic, like Godzilla, the original Godzilla, to pretty awesome, like The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, It Came from Beneath the Sea. 20 Million Miles to Earth is another great one. Fantastic film. And then they range from that to, like, total crap. Like, they have The Beginning of the End with the grasshoppers and shit like that.
You've seen more of these films than I have. Like, I think I've only seen, like, 4.
Of those, like, 1950s ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, one of my long-term goals is to make, similar to this film, make a film that looks like a 1950s film, and it's an homage, and it's one of those 1950s atomic monster films. I would love to do that. So I commend the filmmaker for making this film. And I believe this is
directed by Andrew Lemon and written by Sean Brain.
Yeah, and I believe this is the director's only film. I looked it up. I think he might have one other, but I thought this was really good. This was really well done. Personally, I thought he really captured the 1920s kind of look and feel really well. There were a few parts, the really well lit scenes you could tell they looked a little digital.
There was some CG in there.
Some CG?
Trickery. Yeah, some like trickery or some like CG, some green screen shit was happening in some parts.
Yeah, there were parts, that kind of they kind of showed you the man behind the curtain a little bit, so to speak. They kind of broke the act of this is a 1920s film. There were parts, particularly during like the well lit daytime scenes, which there aren't many. There's only a couple. but you can tell was shot digitally versus like on film,
Mm-hmm.
just by how fluid they're moving. And I'm like, oh, this ain't a 1920s film. But
Well,
most of
they
the
have a
movie,
budget.
I forgot that it was a 2005 film. Like, it was the music, the feel,
Yeah.
the tone. I mean, this guy really captured that
Yeah.
feel.
Well, this is where I sit. And where I sit is at a place of discontent.
Really?
I didn't like it. No, I didn't like it.
Oh, you didn't like this film?
No, it didn't work for me, man.
Oh, so we're going to
It didn't
disagree
work.
this week.
We're going to disagree this week. And it just didn't work for me. I think
Really?
like maybe I'm just not big on the style. Maybe I just don't have that much appreciation for it, you know.
Okay.
Because I wanted to like this, you know. Like I was sitting there and I was like, I want to, and I couldn't because like I think the only way that I would have liked this is if the story had been executed in a different way, or if they actually had the budget to do this right, and they didn't have either of those two things,
Huh.
in my opinion. You know?
Okay.
And
I
it's
didn't
because-
think they needed the budget to do this right.
Yeah.
To be honest, because without adjusting for inflation, they probably made this for a similar amount of money
Yeah.
that this would have been made for back in the day.
And what I'm trying to convey is rather that I think for this to have been an effective movie for me, it would have had to have elements of modern, you know, like it would have had to be modern in some way, you know, because like I was looking for kind of like a visceral feeling, you know, and I think the movie just wasn't able to deliver that to me with what was provided, you know. What was provided was just like very low fidelity stuff, you know, just like, you know, I don't know. There's two instances in the film where I was like, oh, I like that, like when the guy is like staring into this black void,
Yeah.
and he instantly dies. And then they cut to Cthulhu just like coming out.
Yeah.
I was like, great. I was like, that's great. You know. And the other instance is when they're in the boat. You know, the guy that survived and the other guy, and they're like all happy, like fuck yeah, we're getting away. And the dude comes out and he sees that Cthulhu is like coming after them.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
And those are the only two instances in this film that I appreciated.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. It worked for me.
Otherwise, like things were just funny to me, and they weren't supposed to, or I caught myself thinking of Inception. Like those were the two places where I wasn't happy. You know?
Inception. What? Because of the
Yeah.
like the off balance, like the 4-dimensional kind of stuff. The weird like dream world looking stuff.
No, that was the Dr. Caligari stuff for me. Like I'm saying, Inception is because it would be like, well, this is a man and he's telling a story, and in his story, another man is telling another story.
Yeah.
And I wrote a note that just said Cthulhuception.
Yeah. That did get a little confusing at certain points.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that format for horror. Like this, like my Uncle Victor book, that horror novella that I wrote a few years ago. Similar format in terms of like, just in terms of it's in a setting of a professional who's making discoveries.
No, and
I like
actually
that.
I have no problems with that premise. Like I actually think it's a great premise. I just didn't like the execution.
Yeah.
You know? Like that's it. And like, dude, there was a story where like the police guy, he goes to the archaeologists and he's like, I have this artifact, you know, and he tells them the story of how he found it. So we go into his story, you know.
Yeah.
We do the little Inception shit, and I was like, this is some goofy ass shit. And then they find like the people who were like, you know, doing like the occult, like praising the god, you know, ritual shit. And I was like, this is all some goofy shit. And then they say on the thing, like, we arrested 47 and killed 5. And that made me laugh. And then I was like, why? Why was that there? Like I was like, it almost felt like the filmmakers, and this is like really just me. Like it felt like the filmmakers were working against themselves because I was like, I don't want to be laughing at this. Like I don't want to be thinking that this is like some goofy shit. Like when he learned that guy was like the only survivor, and he went to see his wife, and his wife gives him the diary, and the diary says, "I'm writing this in fucking English so my wife won't understand." And I'm like, what the fuck? And then the wife just gives this strange man that she's never met the diary. And the guy takes it with him, and while he's on the fucking boat, he like thinks about throwing it. And then he's like, no, I'm actually gonna read it, you know? Yeah. And I was like, this is goofy. Like, I was like, this is goofy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's a version of this movie that exists in my head that I think would be incredible.
Yeah. I mean, is it still a silent film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it would be incredible. But it would require more money, you know? Like sometimes you watch fucking movies and they just make you think to yourself, like, I could write this and make this work.
Right.
You know? Maybe my brain is just like trying to do that all the time. But I fucking watched, what was it? The Force Awakens, and that's what I came out of. I was like, there's a movie here that I can write that would be great for me. You know?
I think that way all the time. When I see something like crappy but has potential, I think of like, dude, you know how many, I've talked about this before, like with Dexter. I've rewritten the ending to Dexter in my head. You know, like an ending that's like awesome to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That was my experience with this film, where I was just like, there's a version of this that I can make that could or could not be silent. Like I could also do it with just minimal dialogue. And I think that would be better, because I think pacing-wise, like, doing this fucking cutaways to text are just, like, so obnoxious. Like, seeing somebody go like this.
Move your mouth, yeah.
And then seeing somebody else go... And then having the text, it's like, fuck, you're wasting my time. Like, this is not efficient, you know?
That's how it was with silent films. I think they were just trying to be accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand that, you know? Like, I understand that, but fuck, man. You know, like that, like, I think that's all that, you know, like, fuck. That's all I have to say, you know, like, I really wanted to like this. You know?
I just liked it was all the way I felt. I didn't love it. I think, I just like the fact that it exists. I'm very inspired that someone was like, hey, let me make an old style horror. You know, I really appreciate, especially the genre of horror. I really appreciate all eras of horror, you know? Like you have these different eras, like you have the black and white era, you know, and then you have one of my favorite YouTubers, the Angry Video Game Nerd. He has a channel called Cinemassacre where he talks about films, and he separates horror into like different ages. So he has like the Golden Age, which is like the old black and white stuff, like Frankenstein, Nosferatu, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, like all that stuff, Wolfman, Dracula. Mm-hmm. And then he has the Silver Age, which is like the 50s, where you have like the Atomic Age stuff, and then you at the same time you have like the Vincent Price stuff. Mm-hmm. And then he has the Bronze Age, which is like the 70s and 80s, and that's like Exorcist, Shining, Rosemary's Baby, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, like all that stuff. And I always thought those were like really appropriate, like kind of eras. And I just appreciate all those eras, you know? Yeah. I feel like the era that I appreciate the least is the modern age of horror, honestly.
Yeah. Because I think I might agree with you on that.
Yeah. Stuff was way scarier pre-millennium. Pre-2000s. But yeah, it worked for me. I think maybe I had like pretty low expectations. I was like, oh, this is a silent film. I kind of had like this feeling of like, fuck, why did I make us watch a silent film this week? Yeah. Like I had that feeling. I was like, what the fuck's wrong with me? You know, like you think, you're like, oh, this silent film looks interesting. And then you sit down to watch a silent film and you're like, oh, fuck, what have I done? But I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh, this. And here's another thing too. I've never read the Call of Cthulhu, so I didn't even know the story. So I was intrigued by it. I knew the gist of it, but that was about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed a lot of the the music was fantastic. I thought a lot of the
music was good.
Yeah, the atmosphere I thought was really good. It was really well done, like really accurate. I really appreciate again like all that golden age, the old black and white horror films. So I really appreciated the atmosphere that he captured. I love stop motion animation. The stop motion Cthulhu was great, and how they didn't show it too much. They had a good impactful scene right there, I think.
Yeah. I didn't like that they drove the boat into him, and that like nullified him, and then that they just like drove away.
Yeah, that was weird.
Or boated away.
That was weird. It reminded me of the Little Mermaid, honestly.
I didn't. Yeah, it really is a Little Mermaid. I didn't like that, and it was because like this is what I'm saying. Like I just just had this like all these like little things. I had all these like things that started as pet peeves, and then they all formed into a ball of grind. Because they did that, and in my head I was just like like maybe this is like a very faithful adaptation of this. Which it might be. And I guess this is like really just me undoing myself. Because in my head, I've always thought of Cthulhu just as like this like thing. That it's like there's no escaping this,
Yeah.
And there's no escaping this. This is just like if you come into contact with this being, you've entered a world of just like nightmare.
Yeah.
And hopelessness. That's what that creature always meant to me. It was always like hopelessness and just like this like intergalactic like horror doom of just being like you're done. You know? And
that's why I thought Shin Godzilla was so great. It felt that way.
Yeah, and it initially started like that, because the guy just looked at him and died.
Yeah.
It was a guy that just looked at where he was and died. And his shipmate, the shipmate of the guy that went crazy, he looked back to that guy, and his eyes were like bleeding out when he died, and his hair was like all white. He like just died out of fear.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was just like, you can't be contradicting yourself. You can't handle this creature as a creature that people look at and die, but also as a creature that if a sailor is willing enough, he will just drive his boat into it and sail away. I was like, no, this doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, dude, that shit like that. I came out of the movie, like, just two in my head. And then I was just like, I didn't enjoy the experience.
Yeah. What's a pretty crappy Cthulhu movie is the movie Underwater. I did not enjoy that film.
Really? What is that?
You don't know that one?
No,
has, who's the woman from Twilight?
Who plays Stewart?
Yeah, has her in it. It's an ocean horror film from like a couple years ago.
Really, it is. Yeah, from 2020. Wow.
And it's a Cthulhu film.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, look at this.
It's okay, but then I don't know. It's kind of crappy. I gave it a 5. To me, it's like the epitome of a 5, where it's just like
very interesting. Yeah.
It's like I almost liked it.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'll check this out. Fascinating.
Her acting's great in it as always.
Yeah, I think there's like people who've made like monster movies that have really captured like that feeling that you come out of. Like obviously one of them is just Anno with that Shin Godzilla film.
Yeah,
like that man just encapsulated that. It's like this is the end. There's nothing to be done.
Yeah,
like, just that I love that. Like we're talking about how you love the feeling of like anxiety. I love that feeling.
Yeah.
I love the feeling of just like somebody encapsulating that, just hopelessness.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You should read, if you like stuff like that, you should read Stephen King's Revival. Or at least look up the premise and read the like the dessert at the end. I won't spoil it. Check that out, dude.
Yeah.
You probably won't want. I know you probably don't want to read the whole thing, but like, just get the premise, dude. Fuck, that'll hit you with that for sure.
Yeah.
That's a very Lovecraftian novel.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you rate this film?
4.
Okay, I give it a 6.
Like,
I liked it.
There's one of those instances where, like, I've said this in the podcast before, and you know this about how I like experience films.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if I really feel like a film was made with like lots of heart and they put lots of effort into it, I never want to give that movie like a bad rate.
Yeah.
I never want to do that. I always give those movies at least a 5. But with this movie, even though all of those things are there, like I really feel those guys really tried really hard. I still come out of it just like overall with a negative experience,
Interesting.
Like I feel like if the movie just didn't leave me with a negative experience, I'd be like, okay, I'll give it a 5, just like I did when we watched something else. But there was another instance where I was like, I'm gonna give this a 5, even though it's not great, but
Yeah.
there's heart here. But in this film, I couldn't.
Oh, it was M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, it was M. Night Shyamalan. It was Unbreakable. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't stand that movie.
Yeah. So here, this is where we're at.
Well,
thumbs up for being a short film.
Yeah, it wasn't long at all. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but a 6 is the highest I would ever give it. It's just one of those movies where I'm like, yeah, glad that exists. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your pick for next week, sir?
Well, talking about Lovecraftian creatures.
Oh boy.
We're gonna watch a Woody Allen film next week.
Is this gonna be Deconstructing Harry?
No.
Okay.
It's gonna be Love and Death.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm
Interesting.
saying Lovecraftian creatures in reference to Woody Allen himself.
Oh. Because I was like, that was the only, because the only thing in Deconstructing Harry, there's a hell scene, a hell sequence, so I was like, is that what he's talking about?
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were talking about the man
I've
himself.
seen that movie already.
Yeah, I've seen Deconstructing Harry. I like it.
Yes, I wouldn't make us watch that if we've already seen it. But Love and Death is the 1975 Woody Allen classic. It has 100% of Rotten Tomatoes. It's one of those movies that is like, one of those great movies. It's an hour, 24 minutes, so it should be an easy one. It's a comedy about war.
Cool.
That's next week's film.
Well, I love Woody Allen films, so
I do too.
bring it on.
And we haven't seen neither of us have seen this one.
Awesome, man. I'm looking
All
forward to
right.
that one.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Next time on Film Tangents Wrap.
Adios.